The 20th century brought humanity incredible achievements: space exploration, technological breakthroughs, and globalization. But along with this, it birthed a new, previously unseen horror: the phenomenon of the serial killer. It was the past century that gave criminology this term and revealed monsters whose names became household words. Behind each of them lies not just a set of horrific crimes, but an entire era of fear, investigation mistakes, and broken lives. Today, we will look back at 5 of the most notorious serial killers of the 20th century. Make yourselves comfortable. We are beginning our dark journey through history. Although it officially began at the turn of the century, the prologue to the era of maniacs was set in 1888, foggy London, in the impoverished Whitechapel district. Someone emerged whom the world would forever remember by the pseudonym Jack the Ripper. For several months, he brutally murdered women, leaving mutilated bodies right on the streets. The biggest mystery of the Ripper is that he was never caught. The police received mocking letters from the alleged killer himself, signed in blood. But all suspects turned out to be false. Jack the Ripper became the first pop icon of horror in popular culture. He birthed the true crime genre and forever changed people's perception of what danger could lurk around the nearest corner in the dark. Moving on to the United States of the 1970 seconds. Before the appearance of Ted Bundy, society believed that a killer was necessarily a gloomy outcast with mental disorders hiding in the woods. Bundy completely shattered this stereotype. He was an extremely smart, educated, attractive law student with a charming smile. His tactic was cynical. He pretended to be injured wearing a cast on his arm, or intentionally faking a leg injury, or posed as a police officer, asking girls to help carry things to his car. The victims willingly got into his car. His tally includes dozens of proven murders of young women across the country. What shocked people the most was that during court trials, Bundy acted as his own defense attorney, while thousands of female fans flocked to the courtroom, enchanted by his charisma. Even before his execution in the electric chair, he gave interviews trying to maintain the image of a nice guy. At Milwaukee, Wisconsin, the period from 1978 to 1991, there lived a man named Jeffrey Dahmer, known as the Milwaukee Cannibal. Outwardly, he was a quiet, shy chocolate factory worker who wore glasses and seemed completely harmless. But behind the locked doors of his apartment, events took place that make your blood run cold. Dahmer invited young men over, slipped them sleeping pills, and after the murder, dismembered their bodies. The scariest part of this story is that he kept body parts in his refrigerator for years, practiced cannibalism, and tried to create living statues of his victims using acid. His crimes went on for so long due to systemic indifference and the racial biases of the police. One night, a traumatized young man barely escaped his apartment onto the street half naked, but police officers simply led him right back to Dahmer, believing the killer's word that it was just a domestic dispute. Cho, late 1960 seconds, California. The peaceful life of San Francisco is disrupted by a series of attacks on young couples in secluded recreation areas. But the main gimmick of this maniac was not even the violence itself, but his psychological game with society as a whole. The killer began sending letters to local newspaper offices, signed with the pseudonym Zodiac. He demanded that his messages be printed on the front pages, threatening new murders if the editorials refused. The letters contained complex ciphers and cryptograms that promised to reveal his true identity. Professional cryptographers spent decades after his disappearance deciphering some of these codes. The Zodiac remained an elusive phantom, turning mass murder into a cruel, unfinishable game of cat and mouse with the press. For a long time, Soviet propaganda lived by the myth that serial killings were exclusively a curse of the capitalist world, and that something like that could simply not happen in the country of victorious socialism. However, reality proved much more terrifying. From 1978 to 1990, Inch is the south of the USSR, primarily in the Rostov region. Andrei Chikatilo, known as the Rostov Ripper, operated. Working as an engineer, teacher, and traveling supplier, he had a perfect alibi for moving around the country and interacting with people. Chikatilo lured children, teenagers, and young women into forest belts, committing unimaginably brutal crimes. The hunt for him lasted for over a decade due to bureaucracy, police mistakes, and the lack of a centralized database. The criminal was caught only when investigators changed their tactics and started searching for the killer's psychological profile, rather than relying on old Soviet stereotypes. Chikatilo's arrest finally shattered the myth of the ideal Soviet society. Right before the collapse of the country, these 5 stories remind us of the dark side of human nature. Maniacs are not born as movie monsters. Most often, they are people who hide behind our backs, live in neighboring houses, and enjoy our trust. Today, forensics has taken a huge step forward thanks to DNA testing, surveillance cameras, and digital archives. But the shadow of the past century still frightens us with its impunity. Write in the comments which of these killers' stories shocked you the most, and about whom you would like to see an in-depth, standalone video investigation on the channel. Hit the like button, subscribe to the channel so you don't miss new episodes. Take care of yourselves, and see you in